Hi 5A, I'm back again, and I took into consideration some of your opinions on how I should make my next video, and a lot of you said to make it funny. So I decided to start today's lesson off with a rap. I was going to sing for you, but I was afraid that if producers would hear me singing, that they'd be like, hey, come make a CD, come make a CD, and then you wouldn't have me for your teacher anymore, and you'd all be heartbroken. So I decided against that, and I decided to make you a rap instead. So bear with me. Are you ready? Adding and subtracting is plain to see. You match the bottoms perfectly. That being said, I'm probably going to get a lot of phone calls to come. Okay. This is a fraction, 3/4 minus 1/4, and then we have 3/5 plus 1/5. So I said adding and subtraction is very plain to see. You match the bottoms perfectly. And what that means is when the denominators, which is the bottom number, match each other, all you have to do is add or subtract whatever the fraction is telling you, and you add, for instance, right here, 3 plus 1. 3 minus 1. So you just do exactly to the numerator what it's telling you. For example, it's telling you to subtract, and this one's telling you to add. So for my first one, it says 3/4 minus 1/4. Well, I know my denominators are the same, so I'm going to go ahead and put my denominator right in. And then it says 3 minus 1. And I know 3 minus 1 is 2. So our answer is 2/4. And some of you may already know, to simplify that, 2/4 is also known as 1/2. So both answers are right. Okay? The next one is 3/5 plus 1/5. So the denominators are already the same, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Okay? The next part is addition. So I'm going to add 3 plus 1, and that gives me 4/5. So it's really easy to add and subtract fractions if the denominator is already the same. Now you're probably wondering, okay, Miss Faust, what's the trick? What's the catch? Well, sometimes your denominator is not the same, and in order to add and subtract, you need to get the denominator to be the same. So right here is just a reminder of what your numerator is and what your denominator is. Denominator is bottom down. D, denominator down. Okay, we have 1/2 plus 3/4. Some of you might be able to do this in your head, but some of you might not. So one easy way to do this is to look at the denominators and see if they're the same, which they're not. So the denominators have to be the same. So you might be wondering, what do we have to do to get the denominators the same? Well, in the beginning of the year, I told you whenever you're getting equivalent fractions, what you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator. So if we want to get our denominator to equal the same, we can look at this and say 4, okay, and 2. Do they have anything in common? Do they have any factors that are the same? And you might say, well, of course. 4 and 2. 2 can go into 4. So you can just say you have the 1/2 plus 3/4. And now I'm going to leave my 3/4. And I have to change my 1/2 to 3/4. So in order to do that, whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do the denominator and vice versa. So I want to get this 2 to be a 4. And I know when you take it times 2, you get 4. And again, what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I have 3/4, and now this turns into a 2. And your bottom, 2 times 2, turns into a 4. Now I have the same denominator, so I can add these fractions. When I add 3 plus 2, you get 5/4. Now some of you might be saying, hey, Miss Faust, that's an improper fraction. We need to change that to a mixed number. So you're looking at 5/4 and you're saying to yourself, what could this fraction be? How can I make this into a mixed number? Well, how many times does 4 go into 5? Well, it only goes into it once, and that's 4. So you need to take 5 minus 4, and you get 1, and you always have to keep your same denominator. So our answer is now 1 1/4. The improper fraction would be 5/4. So these are actually equivalent fractions. So some of you might be wondering about subtraction. How did we subtract our fractions? So I have another little rap or song for all of you. So for this next part, you really got to think. For adding fractions, you have a link. The two together with a common denom. Add the top only, man. Ain't that the bomb? Subtracting is pretty much the same way as adding. You heard what I say. Subtract the top and remain calm as long as you find the common denom. So I hope you really like that rap. So this is the exact same way. You find your fraction, and let's say we're going to do 2 1/4 minus 1/2. 2 1/4 minus 1/2. So I threw in a little trick with this, and now we have a mixed number. So not only do we have to get common denominators, you also have to change your mixed number into an improper fraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my mixed number into an improper fraction. And remember, you take the whole number times the denominator, and then you add the numerator. So 4 times 2 is 8, and then you have to add your numerator, gives us 9. So our new fraction is going to be 9/4 because we're going to keep the same denominator. Now we're subtracting 1/2. The next step is, you all should be saying it with me, find the same denominator. So just like before, we have a 2 and a 4. Well, we know that 2 and 4 have a common denominator of 2. So if you take 2 times 2, and what you do to the top, bottom, you have to do to the top, times 2, our new fraction is going to be 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So really, this is what we're actually subtracting. We're actually subtracting 9/4 minus our 2/4. Okay? Now I'm going to rewrite that a little better for you all to see. So we have our 9/4 minus our 2/4. So our denominator is the same, so all we have to do is take 9 minus 2, because we already have our denominator. So you put your denominator, because it stays the same, and then you subtract 9 minus 2, which all of you should know, 7. So now we have 7/4, which is an improper fraction. So we need to turn it into a mixed number, and we do the exact same thing we did before. How many times can 4 go into 7? Well, it can only go into it, once is 4, twice is 8, so that's too big. So it can only go into it once. And it goes into it 4 times, so you have 7 minus 4, and you get 3. And remember, you have to keep the same denominator, and now you have 3/4. So your answer is now 1 3/4. You just have to remember that you need to change your mixed number into an improper fraction, and then you need to make sure you have the same denominator. That is key. It's absolutely important to make sure you have the same denominator. Find out what factor they have in common and change it. And remember, what you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So if you multiply that bottom times 2, you multiply the top times 2. So just remember, adding and subtracting is plain to see. You match the bottoms perfectly. Okay? Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.